Stop embarrassing me, my husband snapped across the restaurant table. Before I could answer, his hand struck my face in front of everyone. The room went silent. Then he leaned closer and whispered something that changed everything forever. My name is Danielle Harper, and I'm 37 years old. I never expected the worst moment of my marriage to happen under bright restaurant lights while strangers watched. I work as a restaurant operations manager. My life has always been about long hours, late nights, and fixing problems before customers notice them. I built my career slowly, one shift at a time. No shortcuts, no family money, just discipline. 8 years ago, I married a man named Ethan. At the beginning, he seemed confident and driven. He spoke well, dressed sharply, and people listened when he walked into a room. I believed that meant strength. Later, I learned it often meant control. My family adored him. They said he looked successful. They liked the way he took charge in conversations. I was the quiet one in the family, the one who avoided loud arguments and drama. That made people assume I was weak. But I'm not weak. I'm patient. I watch. I listen. For years, I saved small pieces of my salary for one dream: opening a little cafe of my own someday. Nothing fancy, just a warm place with good coffee and soft music. Ethan always laughed when I mentioned it. "A cafe? That's cute," he would say. He treated my dream like a joke. What people didn't realize about me was simple. I noticed details. Running restaurants teaches you that skill. You learn where cameras sit, where problems start, and who is lying. Still, I never imagined my marriage would collapse in front of a room full of strangers. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask you something. Have you ever been treated like your voice didn't matter? Like people assumed you were small or weak? If you know that feeling, subscribe and stay with me. I read your comments, and your stories matter. And tell me this, have you ever stayed quiet when someone crossed the line? If this story speaks to you, click like or hype before we go on. Ethan planned the dinner for my birthday at an upscale restaurant downtown, the kind with white tablecloths, polished glasses, and soft piano music drifting through the room. My family was there, his family too. A few friends from work joined us. At first, everything seemed normal. Champagne glasses clinked, cameras flashed for photos, the smell of grilled steak and garlic butter floated through the air. Ethan stood to make a toast. "To my wife," he said with a grin. People clapped politely. Then the jokes started. "Danielle has the biggest heart, but don't let her near the bank account." A few people laughed. I forced a smile. "She once tried to reorganize our budget and nearly gave me a heart attack," he continued. More laughter. I felt heat rising in my face. I tried to brush it off. I'd learned over the years that arguing with Ethan in public only made things worse. Later, when dessert arrived, I stood up to thank everyone for coming. "I'm really grateful you're all here tonight, and this year I'm hoping to start planning something I've dreamed about for a long time, opening a small cafe." Before I could finish, Ethan laughed loudly. "A cafe?" he said. The table turned toward him. "You can barely run our house budget." Some guests laughed awkwardly. I felt my chest tighten. "Ethan," I said quietly, "please stop." His expression changed instantly. "You're embarrassing me now," he snapped. "I'm just asking you to respect me," I replied softly. The next moment happened so fast it barely felt real. His hand swung across the table. Crack. Pain exploded across my cheek. The sound echoed in the room. Glasses stopped clinking. Forks froze in midair. Someone gasped. Ethan leaned toward me and whispered through clenched teeth, "You pushed me to this." My cheek burned. My ears rang. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply sat there with my hand against my face. Everyone expected a scene. Instead, I stayed quiet. And above us, unnoticed by almost everyone in that room, a small black camera on the ceiling recorded every second. The days after the dinner felt stranger than the slap itself. Ethan's family came to our house 2 days later. His mother sat across from me with folded arms. "You should let this go." Ethan was stressed. I stared at her. "He hit me." "Well," she replied carefully, "you were provoking him in front of everyone." My stomach turned. She continued speaking as if she were explaining something obvious. Men sometimes lose their temper when they feel disrespected. In that moment, I realized something painful. They cared more about his reputation than about what happened to me. Then Ethan began telling his version of the story. I heard it through friends and relatives. Apparently, I had exaggerated the entire thing. He barely touched her, just tapped her shoulder. Some people believed him. Others stopped calling me altogether. One afternoon, I logged into our joint bank account and saw something that made my chest tighten. Half of our savings was gone. I confronted Ethan. "What happened to the money?" I asked. He shrugged. "I moved it." "Why?" "To protect myself." "From what?" He looked straight at me. "From you becoming unstable." I felt something inside me go cold. He was building a story where I was the problem, the angry wife, the dramatic one. But there was one detail he forgot: the restaurant.
The cameras. I've spent years managing restaurants. When something happens inside a dining room, the first thing managers check is security footage. Cameras watch entrances, hallways, the bar, the dining floor. They protect the business, but they also record the truth. What Ethan didn't know was that I had already called someone I trusted, a woman named Linda Morales. Linda was my mentor years ago when I first entered restaurant management. She had decades of experience dealing with incidents, reports, and legal procedures. When I told her what happened, she didn't hesitate. "Did the restaurant have cameras?" she asked. "Yes." "Then the truth still exists," she said. That same night, I took photos of the bruise on my cheek. I saved every message Ethan sent where he admitted losing his temper, and I asked the restaurant manager one simple question: "Do you keep security footage after incidents?" The family thought I was weak because I stayed quiet, but silence can be a strategy. What they didn't know was that evidence speaks louder than arguments, and I was collecting it piece by piece. Linda helped me plan the next steps carefully. "Don't confront him yet," she advised. "Why not?" I asked. "Because people lie when they panic," she said. "Evidence doesn't." She helped me formally request the security footage from the restaurant. The manager remembered me. We had worked together during supplier meetings years ago. He sounded serious when I explained the situation. "Danielle," he said, "I'll check the footage." Meanwhile, Ethan grew more confident every day. He walked around the house like nothing had happened. "Eventually you'll calm down," he told me one evening. His relatives repeated the same message. "Forgiveness saves marriages," his aunt told me. One cousin even suggested I apologize for causing the scene. Inside, I felt something shifting. Not anger, clarity. A week later, Linda called me. "They have the video," she said quietly. My heart pounded. "And?" I asked. "It clearly shows him hitting you." I closed my eyes. For the first time since that night, I felt steady. Linda spoke again. "You don't need to argue with anyone anymore." "What should I do?" "Take the evidence to the authorities." That's exactly what I did. I filed an official report with the police. I brought the footage, the photos, the messages. The officers reviewed everything carefully. One of them nodded after watching the video. "That's clear assault," he said. 2 days later, the police visited our house. Several members of Ethan's family were there for dinner. Ethan opened the door and laughed when he saw the officers. "What is this about?" he asked. One officer spoke calmly. "We're here regarding a report filed by Danielle Harper." Ethan rolled his eyes. "Oh, this again." The officer continued. "We've reviewed security footage from the restaurant." The room went quiet. "What footage?" Ethan asked. "The footage showing you striking your wife." His smile vanished. "That's ridiculous," he said. The officer pulled out a tablet. "Would you like to see it?" The video played. There I was at the table, speaking calmly. Then Ethan's hand flashed across the screen. The sound of the slap echoed through the room. His family stared at the screen in stunned silence. Ethan's face turned pale. "That's not the whole story," he said quickly. The officer looked at him. "Sir, the video tells the story clearly." The confidence drained from Ethan's voice. For weeks he had controlled the narrative. Now the truth sat right in front of him. The officer explained the legal consequences calmly. Ethan's reputation suddenly looked fragile. I stood there quietly. Finally, I spoke. I stayed quiet because I wanted the truth to speak for itself. No one argued with me this time. In the weeks that followed, I began separating my life from Ethan. It felt strange at first. 8 years is a long time to untangle, but every day I felt lighter. I kept working, saving money, planning the cafe I always wanted. Linda stayed close through the whole process. She reminded me that rebuilding takes patience. Ethan faced the legal consequences of what he did. Some members of his family eventually apologized. Not all of them, but enough. The hardest part of the whole experience was not the slap. It was watching how quickly people believed lies. Still, I learned something powerful. Truth doesn't need shouting. Sometimes it just needs time. Walking away from someone who hurts you is not weakness. It's self-respect. And if you've ever been embarrassed or disrespected in front of others by someone you trusted, I want to hear your story. Tell me in the comments. Your voice matters here. Subscribe if you want to be a part of a community that supports each other, and click hype to help this story reach others who might need to hear it. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments. Every hype you give this video helps someone else feel less alone. Thank you for listening and being here.